Okay, slowly we can. So
that's a very tricky.
Great. Then I will tell the panelists Mario will be late at 7:30, but I think this is perfect. That you and me we can start the introduction and then let Rolf do his part, and in the meantime Mario will be here.
Perfect. Yeah, this is really amazing. Because
this is amazing. This is extremely loud, mobile, and you can put it here.
I love it.
Love it too. Yeah. Great that you thought about everything.
That's me.
Here, put it here.
Yeah.
Okay. So with the camera team, can you hear me? So we'll go live in a second, right? We're live? Okay, all right. Okay, good. So first of all, thank you so much for joining. Yeah, I'm super excited about today's event. About 42 people signed in, and I'm expecting half of it from the last experience. The last one we had was also in Garching campus, and thanks to Mark, we are actually merging two groups here. One is the human with algorithm group that is moderated by Mark. And for Mark, it's like his home. For me, it's also a Heimspiel because I'm a TU Munich graduate. It's not too long ago I was here, right in this building. So I feel like, back home. So we will be presenting our two groups first, introducing the two groups. And then we have two presenters and one live hacking demo. And the panel will be whole time here for your question. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are students here? Amazing. This is amazing. I really, really hope this would be the case this time because last time there were like only 2 students. And how many of you follow the Autonomous Vehicle Safety and Security group? Amazing. So it's like...
How many follow the other group?
Great. This is again amazing. It's a great mix. So that's exactly what we were looking for, and I'm looking forward to it. So this will be, as you know, this will be live streamed, and feel free to ask questions. And it should be not a monologue that we'll be offering you. It will be more of a dialogue. We'll be doing a lot of interaction. So without further ado, if I may introduce the first group and hand it over to Mark to introduce his one. So the Meetup group that we moderate is Autonomous Vehicle Safety and Security Meetup group. So last event was in May. It was also here in TU Munich. Mark was also we're doing this jointly. So there is, I'm going to put the introduction mercifully short, and I'm going to talk about what is our mission. Why do we do this group? First, what we want to do is we're at the dawn of an era that automotive industry is going through a massive change. So whatever we're seeing for the last 20 years, 30 years of the automotive industry, there has been changes at a very slow pace compared to other compared to other things in the IT industry like mobile phone, and everything's changing very fast. So my bet is in the next 5-10 years, this is going to change. You're going to see massive and very, very rapid changes in the automotive industry. And obvious reasons are connected vehicles, electrifications of vehicle, and of course, autonomous vehicle. So what we want to do at this time, we want to start a dialogue. So are we going in the right direction in terms of safety and security? Because once we give our the chart of our life, so to say, when some software is driving the car, are we in the safe hand or not? So this is a very, very important thing to talk about. As a part of our dialogue, this is, the Meetup group is one. We also conduct a podcast. You can find it not only in YouTube, you can find it in Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcast, Anchor, and what have you. The second purpose is to build a community. We want to build a community because we've seen the power of community in the past. So by building community, the reason we want to build community because a lot of things, most of the most successful ventures in the IT industry comes from open source, the power of community. So that's why we want to build the community. So here I have an anecdote, an analogy for you. So let me ask you this question. So this is a 29,000 years old weapon. Archaeologists discovered in the hills of Latin America. So I want to ask you this question. What is the similarity between these two equipment and what we use on a day-to-day basis? Do you see there's this like really almost scarily similar? Any idea what I'm talking about that you keep? A mouse. Perfect answer. So this really looks like a mouse because this is like a human palm, didn't really change much. The size is the same. Now, they're extremely similar in shape, but here is one difference, massive difference in its manufacturing process. Can anybody tell me what that difference is? Any idea?
Typically, that weapon you would carve out something to make it a mouse, you would put it together.
You're in the right direction. That's where I'm going toward. In terms of manufacturing process, one person could single-handedly craft this weapon, extracting stone from the nature. Now, there is not a person in this entire world today who can say that I can make a mouse by myself. There is not a single company out there that can say that we can make a mouse without relying on external suppliers. And it is not an exaggeration to say there's not a single country in the world who can say that I can make a mouse without importing stuff from outside. So now when it comes to automotive, you have a car, you have the OEM who builds the car, they put their brand on it, and you have tier 1 suppliers, then you have tier 2 suppliers, then you have tier 3 suppliers, and if you count tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, behind a car there's about 3,000 companies involved. So it's all about collaboration, and this is what takes our civilization to a level because we can collaborate. We can the power of community, and that's the mission we have. And finally, we want to unlock the power of collaboration. So having said that, I have this one speech from this gentleman that I found extremely powerful to express the power of community. So this is the South African word, Ubuntu, which means I am because we are. I could never find any other way to express the power of community. So I hope you will have a very stimulating session today. We have great speakers, and let's enjoy. I'm going to put one more thing that we collaborate with another community here. This is from Detroit. They're making autonomous vehicle as a DIY project. They're just building autonomous vehicle. They have several prototypes, and we collaborate with them. Thank you so much for listening. I'll hand it over to Mark, and I'm looking forward to a stimulating session today.
Okay, so yeah, thank you very much. Also welcome from my side. So the second meetup group is Menschsein mit Algorithmen, being human with algorithms. And I also want to give a brief introduction. So what does it mean, being human with algorithms? So I asked one of the students, that was one of my early students, so he did a thesis with me, I think, in 2009. And so let's see what he has to say.
That's a very tricky question. I'm an engineer, right? And I tend to see the world as it's full of algorithms. So there's been always an algorithm up there. They just changed in the shape. Some generations ago, it was just for certain elite. But nowadays, everybody is using applications like Uber, like Tinder, Deliveroo, whatever. It will eventually bring many benefits for the generations to come.
Okay, so what was his message? So his message is basically, this digital transformation, so that we use digital technology to achieve things in our life, it's happening now. So he named lots of services that you're probably using. Where is it happening? It's happening everywhere. It's happening around us. Who is affected? So we are all affected. And why should we care? Well, because obviously it's controlling, or it's enabling a major part of our life. This is a very good iconic picture that I always like to show here. Maybe this is the Pope election in 2005 and the one in 2013. And you see a strong difference between the two, because here people were just normal people, and here people all had their smartphones. And it's very iconic, because when you walk around now, you take this one here for granted. And 2005 is not like 400 years ago, it's just like 14 years ago. So it's not forever, at least. And today we are totally used to this here. Okay, yeah, let's see what I brought next. I think it's also a video, I also don't see it here. Ah, yeah, okay. So this digital transformation, when you think about it, so what is it? You can look at different aspects of it, and so obviously it's something that has to do with technology, it has to do with your work life, it has to do with your education life, it has to do with ethics, it has to do with society, it has to do with art, it has to do with governance, it has to do with law and order, and many more aspects. And what is very important for me, and it's also the main topic of the meetup, is that society, so all of us here, we have to be aware of that the digital transformation, so the technology is coming into our lives, is taking part now. And so now we have to discuss about and shape how we want to interact with this technology. Those of you who've been participating last time, so there I've been giving a talk about autonomous driving and what happens there with data. And so one example I said there was the social scoring that is happening in China right now, where there was an article in the news some days ago again. And so there, everything about your digital persona is collected, and your digital persona is also the things that they are sensing. So there was this iconic thing that people were walking around, and the machine learning algorithms were able to detect who's walking just by looking at the way how this person was walking. And this, you have a lot more in China, but China is just a good example that is showing us where technology can bring us if we allow this. And now is still the time here in Europe to think about what we want to have there as laws, what we want to have as a society. And to do so, we have to be informed about what is happening, and we also have to discuss about it. And so this is what I want to enable with the meetup. And this is also what we did with this initiative here. And behind me is the German chapter of the ACM. So the ACM is the Association of Computing Machinery. It's the biggest association of computer scientists worldwide. And so I'm there in the German chapter. And this is one point on our agenda to make the people aware of what is happening and bring them into dialogue with the people doing the technology. And as you are probably, so who of you is from the technology field? Okay, yeah, so everybody. And so for you, the important thing is you are creating the technology. So you're creating the algorithms and bring them out to the people. And as someone who creates technology, you also have responsibility, and you have to be aware of it. So a very good example there is when the people created the atomic bomb, then some of them said like, okay, we were just creating this technology and others were using it. Sure, I mean, this is what we can always say. But if we enable things to happen, so if we enable the software that is judging if people should be killed or not, for instance, when you think about military technology, then we are also responsible, because if we would not create the mechanisms, others could not use them. And if we do not build in mechanisms to stop that, then who should do that? And so therefore we as technicians have a responsibility, and we should be aware of it. If you want to read more about it, look for Martin Hellman. So he's the one from the Diffie-Hellman key exchange. And so he wrote a book about ethical decision making. And so this brings a lot of interesting thoughts into that direction. It's one of the Turing Award winners, by the way. Okay, yeah, so this was one of the key slides last time. So we have lots of things that are collecting data today. Once we give the data into the hands of other people, it becomes dangerous. And then entities that have nothing to do with our car here, for instance, can use the data to do things. And it can be state entities, but it can also be private entities, of course. As you've also seen with the Cambridge Analytica case, which was considered as an iconic case, even though it was more or less normal Facebook usage. But still, it was using data in a way that you did not expect it would happen. Okay. So we have also different channels. So we have the Meetup. So this is also on the sheet that I brought you there. We have a Twitter. We have a website with a blog where we put regularly interesting articles about this topic. We have a LinkedIn page. We have Facebook, and we also have a mailing list. And so if you're interested, just contact me or subscribe to all of these channels. Okay, so this is the website. So here you can see Robert Tarjan, also one of the Turing Award winners. Here is Whitfield Diffie, so the other part of the Diffie-Hellman key exchange. So I had the pleasure to interview them last year. Also had the pleasure to interview Hassan. So this is still waiting to be published here, but it's already on YouTube. And yeah, just have a look. If you find the pages slow, I find the same, so I will move it very soon, then it should be faster. This is the YouTube channel, so there's also more Turing Award winners like Steve Cook, also Tony Hoare, whom you might know, and some other interesting figures from computer science. And there's also the full interview with Alex that you heard already. Okay, good. Yeah, bringing me to the end. So this is why I put you these stickers here. So one important aspect of this understanding and discussing about this digital transformation is knowing about the backbone of the digital transformation. And what is the backbone? It is the internet, because all these things are connected over the internet today. And surprisingly or unluckily, not so many people know how the technological background of the internet is working. And together with my team, I was working for 3 years now on a course about how this internet works. So some here in the room are also part of the, or were part of the practical exercises that we are running here. So Robert is also a first-hand person who can tell you about it. And so this is the essence of what I'm teaching for the past 15 years. This is a course where you have to spend 7 times 4 to 6 hours, and afterwards you for sure know how this internet works. And you do not only know it, but you practically explored it by setting up the internet on your computer. And this is free, it's available on edX, it's at your own pace. You can also select topics if you think, okay, I'm an expert in, if you know the ISO-OSI layers, in cables and signals, but I don't know about routing, you can just go into the routing part, for instance. Okay, so yeah, this is the trailer, it's 1 minute.
Television, communication, information, eBay, playing online Word, Bike, Tinder, Wikipedia, YouTube, WhatsApp, Google, Stack Overflow, Pokemon Go, brands.
The internet has become one of our most important infrastructures. It connects everything from people to machines in all areas, from the airport to the stock exchange, everywhere on this planet and beyond. But how does this internet, that enables so many things in our daily lives, actually work? Technical University of Munich presents IBEX, the Internet Masterclass.
How does this internet actually work? This is exactly what we look at in the course. 6 pulse signals and cables. This is how you can directly connect to computers. The internet protocol. How can 2 computers call each other? How can data packets find their path through this complicated internet? When you have multiple applications on your computer, how is it possible that the data packets reach the right application? The domain name system, how is it possible that you can enter something like ilatx.ilatxp.com in your browser? How can we connect the new IPv6 internet with the old legacy IPv4 internets? Plus, we look at something very important, namely a major security mechanism in today's internet, firewalls here. We have texts, videos, lots of interactive quizzes, plus a hands-on environment where you will actually build your own internet using the tools. You can also connect it to the real internet in the end. As you can see, in the virtual environment, you can do exactly the same experiments. In the end, you have the internet. You build it even on your own computer. How cool is that? See you in the course very soon.
That's the internet.
No! Okay, if you know IT crowd, so we also received the internet from, as Hassan said at the beginning, from the father of the internet, Win Cerf, one of the 2 who created it together. So with Bob Kahn, he did that. And my last slide, the course is also perfect for the holidays, if you have holidays now. Okay, if you want to know more about that, you can just approach me after the course. I also have some more stickers here. There are also some more laying around. And also inform your friends. We also have a Facebook page for that one. Like it, share it. Because my hope is, at the moment we have about 700 people participating. My hope is to go rather towards 10,000 of people. And so therefore I still need a little bit more spread, and you can support me with that. Thank you very much.
Kai is a honor. All right. So our next speaker, actually the first speaker, Professor Rolf Jung. Professor Rolf Jung is a faculty member of a University of Applied Science, Kempten. And he's running a very interesting program. It's a master's program in ADAS, Advanced Driver Assistance System. So maybe Rolf will tell you a little more about it. One interesting fact about Rolf is he's also a TU Munich alumni. So for you, it's also a Heimspiel, Rolf. So please welcome Professor Rolf.
Do you have some switch? Never mind.
It's here.
Hope it fits.
It's here. It's here.
It's down there. Let me see. And we have that one. Oh,
Yeah.
where is it?
Put it here.
That's it.
There you go.
Fits now. Let me see. So now welcome here. Thank you for the invitation, Hassan, and also Mark, because you gave me a lot of impact in the ethics discussion and every other things. So where are we going to go now? As you see the topic, I took the topic future of highly automated driving. Is it safe and is it secure? We will dive into that in a minute, but firstly I want to tell you my name is Rolf Jung, as you already mentioned it. Thank you. I'm working in the University of Applied Sciences in Kempten for one part teaching and one part research on this basis of functional safety. So ADAS is one part. I do also have machinery engineering where safety is also relevant. So, but now I just want to give you an introduction what we're going to meet in the future. My topic is the future. Hopefully it's working. Just get an impression of it. So what you see here, it's a crossing. And what you mentioned, there are no traffic lights, nobody riding according to any rules as it seems to. So you see the passenger just walking by, the other one. It'll become more interesting. So, would you walk on this crossing here? Well, this is a bit scary for the future, but what we have now is something like that. Maybe you know that. This is a terminal, a container terminal in Hamburg. It's in 2012. These are autonomously driving vehicles, just trucks, running around, but you see no human in the background. So that's the extremely difference when we have cars driving in traffic in normal roads, and if we have a place where no passengers or no people are crossing. So we have a much more safe region here, and these are driving completely autonomously. but there is no danger. So safety is imminent. Where do we have automotive vehicles as well? If you look at this metro, it's the one in Nuremberg, you may have heard from it. Usually it's driving on its own, so people can enter the metro and they will be driven autonomously, but there is always a driver in it right now, doing nothing, just comforting people and giving trust to the technology. So, but doing it autonomously must be some advantage. And what's the advantage? For those who built this metro, they shorten the sequences from 200 to 100 seconds. So more people can drive into it, take this metro. There are also other metros, you know them all over the world. Let it be somewhere Lausanne, Barcelona, Paris, or whatever. So there's another part in Germany. There's a bus. This is driving autonomously in Bad Birnbach. It was the first bus in Germany to be certified, driving not only on private roads, but on public roads. So it's just a road with a length of 700 meters, but nevertheless, it's driving autonomously. But as in the metro, there's not a driver in it, but someone who accompanies the car. If anything happens that is not known by this car, then this accompanying people will push the red button and the car comes to a stop. So right now, the speed is also limited. Right now to less than 20 kilometers per hour. So it's quite tricky today to get cars driving faster than 20 kilometers per hour. We come to that later on. Right now, what do we have to get cars on traffic roads? We have several levels of automation for these highly automated cars. There is a BMI VDA source. There's also an SAE source, Society of American Engineers. They listed these driverless vehicles within 6 levels. Level 0 means only the driver is responsible for the car and takes control over the car completely. Then there are levels up to 5. This here says driverless. So this car drives without any driver attention. And there are some levels in between. You see assisted driving, partly automated, highly automated, and fully automated driving. I don't go too deep into that detail now. I do have a video that demonstrates it. Maybe this is some part of advertising, but as we are in Munich, maybe you excuse that.
Group is implementing fully autonomous driving over 5
You can take other car automobile manufacturers as well.
The car will shift from the person at the wheel to the car itself. Today, the second level has already been reached. Here, the driver is
this is
aided by
second level.
systems and can remove their hands from the steering wheel for brief periods. At the third level,
I left out
they'll
level
sometimes
0.
be able to completely turn their attention away from driving, but must be able to step in again at short notice. Once level 4 is reached, the driver might even be able to sleep. They must, however, still be basically fit to drive in case they have to take over control of the car for specific sections of the journey. It is at the final level of development that cars will drive fully autonomously. The driver will become another passenger and won't even have to be able to drive, as the car will assume complete responsibility for the task of driving. At level 2, stereo cameras and radar sensors monitor the immediate surrounding area. Level 3 requires highly advanced sensors, such as laser scanners, ultrasonic sensors, and radar systems, which together produce a 360-degree model of the vehicle's environment. This makes it possible to calculate more complex driving maneuvers. For level 4, fully automated driving from 2021, all sensors and cameras will supply far more precise data, while the real-time data from the area maps provided by here will also be factored into the process of computing driving maneuvers. And level 5, the first pilot projects for fully autonomous driving are due to get underway in selected cities from as early as 2020. For the BMW Group, the vision of fully autonomous driving has long since begun.
So now you have got an impression of what levels we are talking about, and if you remember that, level 2 is the one we have in reality right now on the roads. Level 3 is maybe approaching, but it is not yet reached. Even if we talk about cars that drive nearly autonomously on the highway, this is not exactly level 3, but it's said to be. So, highly automated driving, what is it? Do we need that at all? Why should we need that? Why do all people talk about that? It's very complicated, it's not trustworthy, so we should have some reasons. Do we have reasons here? Has anybody been in a traffic jam yet? Yeah. I've been standing in a traffic jam right now, coming from the Allgäu. I stood there for 1 hour on a construction site. Well, I'm here. It works, so it's only 1 hour. What is the longest traffic jam someone experienced of you? Just a few things. 5 hours. That's somebody more. One night. So 1 night means 10 hours, 12 hours. Yeah. Anybody more? I hit the hammer. So leave it at 12 hours. I will show you that here. 100 kilometers traffic jam in Beijing for 9 days.
A 9-day traffic jam in China is now more than 100 kilometers long and could last for weeks, state media reported Monday. Thousands of trucks en route to Beijing from Hualien in the southeast have been backed up since August 14, making the National Expressway 100 impassable, Xinhua News reported. A spokesman for the Beijing Traffic Management Bureau reportedly told China's Global Times newspaper that the backup was due to insufficient traffic capacity caused by maintenance construction. The construction is scheduled to last until September 13.
So what we experience here is if you have an accident, then of course you must wait. This is what I experienced today. There was an accident and everything come to a standstill. Or we have construction sites. And this in China, that was no accident. It was just construction sites. There were many construction sites, but it was somehow maybe not planned very, very precisely. There are other parts in the world that are trying self-driving taxis, for example. And what benefits do they promise themselves? There should be some relief of roads. There are fighting shortages, skills of shortages in the transport industry. So no people driving the taxis for the amount of people that need taxis. And there may be more green space through more efficient vehicle use. So the main part is vehicle use. We do have individual traffic, and we of course have the mobility need. And we are a mobile society. So everybody wants to be mobile, and we can't reduce that mobility. So how do we enhance mobility? If we turn back our minds to this traffic jam in China, they need all the people. They are not just going to holidays, they are working there. So it's an economical disaster if the working people stand in that jam for 1 week. So they have to do something against that. And what are they going to do? They can have lots of buses, trains, or large mass vehicles, but they can't do that because the people are living far spread in small countries, and they all have to go to these cities. So there must be some kind of individual traffic usages, cars. So now, what is another part of the mobility? The number of accidents with injuries or with fatalities. And is this still high? If we look to the numbers that came across the years, we have a scale here from 1954 to 2010, and the green graph depicts the number of fatalities in Germany in traffic. So if you look at that number, it's more than 20,000 fatalities, so deaths in traffic, around 1970. And this number decreased until now, though the number of passenger vehicles is rising continuously. So something must have happened. And one severe part was the safety belt and the reduction of 100 kilometers per hour on highways. There was no limit before that time. We can't imagine yet. And then there was the anti-blocking system, the airbag that came to a drop, the stability control, and there were several others. ADAS system. ADAS stands for Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. So these are the systems that are built into the cars to help the driver to get the control of the traffic around it. So, and now, just another a continuation from 2010 to now. There's about a steady amount of fatalities per year from 2000, let's say, yeah, from 2010 to 2018. So there was not much of a reduction right now. And if you think of that, okay, no reduction means no increase, but we should have a decrease. It would be better. Think of 3,000 people dying in traffic each year. Something should be done. And now we think about what are the accidents people are involved. There's a statistics from 2019 about the years 2017 and 18 in black and blue. And the most urgent contributor for these accidents are turns, drive backwards, turning on roads, something like that. You wouldn't imagine that. If you imagine on some advertising amount, then you'd say it's maybe alcohol or speed. But look at that. Speed is somewhere in the middle and alcohol is at the bottommost in this list. It's just an amount of 3 to 4%. It may still be too much people, but this is give way, for example. Not giving somebody the way who has the right to drive right now, or distance is too short, and then we have the speed, or we take the wrong road. So, and these are things that can be taken over by these ADAS systems, a help for the drivers. Can we increase safety now? How can we do that? What kind of safety are we talking about in general? We have several parts. We have this ego driver and its passengers. Ego driver means it's me, it's the car I'm talking about. Then we have the ego car itself. This is human, this is mankind. And this is electronics. This is maybe electronics, the mechanics, the car itself. And then we have the other participators, the surrounding, other cars and traffic participators. And of course, we have the environment. We have these curves, we have trees, and so on. How do we help the drivers without reducing their freedom? Because we would like to have the mobility. So we use advanced driver assistance system. This is one part. And we're aiming at the highly automated driving to take more control of the driver and help him to manage the traffic. So can we make it safe now? The driver is here assisted by some cameras, which many of you have in their cars to watch the distance or the speed. Well, this driver may be stressed, of course. He may be dreaming, maybe he's distracted or in anger because the driver in front of him is too slow, or he's just drowsy in the evening when you drive back from the work. So what else can we do? The other systems have several tasks. The one is it warns the driver in case of some accident, if it happens. So it warns this driver somehow, beeping or doing something. And the next way is to take over control. And this is much more severe, of course, because it has to have some maybe intelligence. And taking over control means it steers, it accelerates, it brakes on its own without our control. And this is something we don't have trust in yet too much. So what are the failures that could happen if we give control to that car? So I show you one more video here. This was in China on January 2016. You see it's driving on the left road. So and this was a car that was driving in a semi-automatic mode. So driver should take care about the surrounding, but he relied on the automated car. So it was driving at about a level between 2 and 3 already. So the driver was in trust to let the car drive on its own. And on a highway, nothing should happen. But this automated car wasn't aware that there could be an obstacle on the overtaking road. So it didn't even realize that car. There were several of these accidents. And the one that was really famous and in the press, you know that, this was this Tesla driver that went below that truck, and the other system didn't recognize that. Well, it was to the press, I won't go in more detail, but these are the things we have to talk about and take into account. There's one more video here. So this is somewhere in Los Angeles. You see the lights turn red, this car stops, and the other car has some thing on it. So this is said to be also an autonomous car driving there, and it didn't recognize this traffic light. So there is a lot to do. What cases of failures do we have in ADAS functions in general? There is the possibility that this ADAS control unit in the car may be defect because of some electronic unit not working. And what is it? Due to some hardware, software, or even architectural failures. And this is taken into account by something that is called functional safety. There's a standard on it. I teach it in the University of Applied Sciences in Kempten, and all the students must know this standard, and they should take it into account when they are working in automotive industry in the future. Secondly, what else do we have? ADAS control may be fooled or cheated. So we have the units, but these electronic units have no eyes as we have. What do they have? They have sensors. We know that, of course, cameras, radar, LiDAR, ultrasonic sensors, but these controls may be fooled. And what does it say? Either fooled by the sensors, by algorithms, writing, this is a digital transformation, for example, or simply by the environment. And the whole thing is also covered by something that is called safety of the intended functionality. A new kind of standard came up that's being discussed, and this is also something that must be taken into account if we're talking about failures happening in these cars. And some third part, of course, that will be topic in the next speeches here are external attackers, of course. So the hackers that go into these ADAS control units and do what they want. So there's the part of security, and by the end of the year there should also be a standard coming up covering this part of failures for these highly automated functions. So there's something else. I've been talking about algorithms. So something that is very near about that, of course, is artificial intelligence. We're now thinking about many functions must be included with artificial intelligence because no algorithm or deterministic software can capture all the cases of sensors and environment. So we have, I don't go deep into that, but we have several levels where decisions have to be taken. For example, here we have the sensor and we have the information that comes into the car by 700 megabits per second or even 1 gigabit. And now there must be some algorithm that detects this one case. We have to make an emergency brake. There is not only one case in this picture the camera sees that says now you have to brake, bring the car to a stop. And what do we have to do? We have to take in the electronic units this 700 megabit stream. We have to put it down to one information that draws the reaction to a dangerous situation. Bring the car to a stop or make a curve or ride around this vehicle. And this is not easy, doing that within, let's say, a part of a second, only a fraction of a second. We often only have 50 milliseconds or less time. So these are, for example, some algorithms getting the images. We got that as a separate presentation. So a car is depicted in green, there are passengers in red. And now we have something, but this algorithm takes time and also has errors, because the problem is that there could be ghost pictures. So in two ways, there is that part of failures is called false positives or false negatives. So you see something and it is not there, so you do an emergency brake, though there is no obstacle. And the other way is much more severe. You don't react upon an obstacle that is really there, but the sensor doesn't see it, doesn't perceive it. So these are the things. What can we do about that? Improve functional safety for these ADAS functions. So if you go out of here, you should always keep in mind functional safety must be some very important thing. Then we have to include this SOTIF. SOTIF was the safety of the intended functionality. And security, not to get a harm on the car. Maybe you have seen some videos or cinemas in the last 2 years that took into account these automated, highly automated cars that were controlled externally. And in case of exceeding the level 3, reminded, level 3 is the one thing that the driver can may not pay attention to the surrounding for more than maybe 10-20 seconds. So the car must securely and safely drive in that period. And in that case, we do still have to, and this is the way back to your talk, the ethical and the legal aspects, which are very severe. So finally, I saw a solution in a China fair. This was an autonomous car, and it had an emergency button on it. I hope this is not the solution to that. So you will, in the future, find the best solution for that. Thank you very much. maybe we have time.
Questions. There is a Q&A session, so feel free to ask questions. Tina, can we have the mic? Sorry? Can we have the mic? Yeah. Question, anybody? So this gentleman here has a question. Tina, if you could pass the mic. For the live streamers, we'll need the mic. They will not hear you.
Professor Jung, thank you for a very informative presentation. A question on functional safety, because you mentioned about it. What are the characteristics that you see are important for an engineer working in the area of functional safety? Mm-hmm. Do you think that he must know programming, or must he have some background information, or do you see it as a very homogeneous field where a lot of different backgrounds of engineers could work together? What is your view on that?
Of course, this is a bit a difficult question because it's spread very far and wide, this question. I've been involved in functional safety for about 20 years now, and when I worked in industry, then there were many people acting in different kinds of development of this functional safety. We have the system architects, we have the project managers, we have the hardware engineers, the software engineers, and of course the testers, and those that do the documentation and the certification. And everybody is important. Everybody on his place. And this is one thing, the whole thing can only work if everybody is doing his job good. So we have, chances for everybody, and you can come into that business, and as more as you have in the mechanical engineering, the better you can see what difficulties there are in the functional safety. Well, you have to know how this complete architecture is built up, and if you see what is the function, only then you can imagine what can go wrong. So there are systematics, you can learn how to do some failure analysis and see what can happen, and then you must see what is the level you want to achieve, and you take the measures. That's it. You can learn that, yeah.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up question. Does it mean that this was your observation based on 20 years of experience? Do you also see that happening in the next years with the rate the industry is changing currently?
Yeah.
Okay.
It becomes much more important, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks. So you mentioned these standards that are under development for functional safety and for intended functionality. How does ethics come into play there? And I'm thinking of the Moral Machine project of the MIT, because moral is very differently defined in every country, in every culture, in every demographic group. So how are these intended to be baked into this intended functionality? Because ethical behavior of autonomous vehicles is somewhat also functionality of these assistance systems.
Ethical behavior of functional safety.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. This is very interesting and it is very severe, but this is tight, very close to the legal discussion, because ethics is one point and legal is the one you may get punished if something goes wrong. Ethics must be discussed, but it can't go directly into these into the algorithms. Maybe you have heard of the Ethics Commission that has been set into commission about 2 years ago. It worked for about 9 months, and there was a 20-sheet paper that gave us some handy ideas to go into that direction. And to my belief, you should take this, this result seriously and take this maybe into all of your work. But this will not be easy because there are the economic pressures maybe in the development, and of course there are the legal cases. So you have to stick directly to the legal character, and this will take into account usually all ethics questions after a few time. And you mentioned that also it's a matter of culture. So if we talk about that in Germany, we will have different results. When we talk in USA, in Japan, or the Far East somewhere, we will probably have different results.
So for Europe, that's an interesting case of hopefully having unified law over the EU, but still having different ethics in every country or even in every region.
That's it.
And it somewhat also implies kind of a regional version of each code, because of course you have to comply with certain regulations, not only for road safety, but also have this moral aspect. And yeah.
That's it.
That's it. And there are some interesting cases from this study Rolf just mentioned that has been heavily discussed, that when you have to decide between a 3-year-old child and an 80-year-old woman, how do you decide? What do you think?
That was actually part of the Moral Machine project. And their finding was that it is vastly different between, for example, Asian countries who would always protect the elderly compared to, well, yes, who would always protect the elderly compared to Western and US, America countries, who will always protect the younger ones. So that is exactly this legal differentiation.
Absolutely. So this discussion also came in this report Rolf just mentioned, and there are also cases. So when you are a victim of such an autonomous driving accident, then you definitely are against it. However, if you look at the bigger picture, if Rolf mentioned that there's 3,500 people dying in Germany, and with the application of autonomous vehicle, the idea is to reduce this number. When in a pure number you can reduce death in the street, you should go for it. But again, from the victim's perspective, that's not okay. Once you're, even if it's 500, as long as you're the victim, you're never going to. So ethical issue is a thing that's just hard to imagine on. On that note, I want to welcome the new panelist, the next speaker. Mario, why don't you join the panel and talk a little bit? You have a very radical standpoint on these issues. So what do you think?
But on this issue?
Yeah.
Not a really radical one.
Sure.
I was always wondering why should you put that burden on a software developer? I would just throw dices.
I fully agree with you. Here is my point. Here's my point, Mario. Thank you for bringing it up. If the surgeon, the open heart surgeon, has to take the liability of making a mistake, he will never go to the operation room. So if you give the liability to the software developer, we will make mistakes. There is no way he will be programming, right? I mean, this is a good point, Rolf.
Maybe let me jump in here. So I mean, you can definitely not make the point that the developer can do whatever the developer wants to do.
That's
so the
not the point.
Developer has a responsibility. Plus, the interesting thing with the question is that we can only decide about it because technology enables us to decide about it. Because what happens now, someone is driving and the someone is deciding with the head, and the someone is as fast or as slow as the someone can be. So it's non-deterministic. At least we cannot know how the determinism works there. With the autonomous car, we know it because we programmed it, we created it, and this is the dimension that makes the problem interesting, because no one cares. I mean, if I'm driving and I hit either the 81-year-old woman or the 3-year-old other person, well, I mean, then I just took a decision, no one cares about it. But with the other thing, it's that someone before being in the situation would have had to think about it and would have had to decide about what will happen there. And I mean, your algorithm might exactly be what happens in my head in that moment. in the end. So it's just a random decision.
No.
Yes.
not exactly. Because as long as it is deterministic, I agree. But as I mentioned, the artificial intelligence, we don't know what will happen. It's non-deterministic.
But in the brain, we also don't know.
It's
yeah,
probabilistic.
right.
And so therefore, it's like,
That's it, yeah.
and also like, I mean, it's not that we don't know what happens in the machine learning. I mean, we can exactly explain every step, but the problem is it's probabilistic.
It's probabilistic. It's actually even more complicated. Probabilistic. With probability, you can check the functional safety part. But when it comes to an external attack, that's not probabilistic anymore. That is absolutely unforeseeable. When someone will attack, what is the probability of attack? This is where you cannot even put any maths anymore. That's right. Right. So this takes the problem to another.
And also indeed opens another dimension, because I mean for this security direction, I mean there it's probably unquestioned that we should provide the highest security level that we can provide to prevent such things. And so I think it's two dimensions, but it's also good that you mention it, because it's another thing that comes in with these always interconnected entities that are not only like the car connecting with an infrastructure or with other cars, but also the control units within the car communicating with each other, probably coming from different vendors. And so today we still have like manufacturers that are creating these cars, and they hopefully checked them to a certain extent. Maybe in the future we'll have also something more modular in that thing, or we have software updates, which is also a very interesting aspect. So there's also something that didn't start too long ago. The people started putting software updates into cars and into control units and so on. And it's not even happening with everything right now, but it's of course very attractive for developers, because then they can fix it once it's shipped. And so this is also an interesting development. And the more we put the things into the So yeah, let me also bring this dimension. So the interesting thing is also, we'll think 10 years back. So back then, software development happened inside this computer. So the worst thing you could harm was like inside your screen. And so now we bring these multi-ton cars or robots in manufacturing or whatever, and they are controlled by software. So we have these cyber physical systems. And so this is interesting, because it's not depending on the physics anymore, but on what we programmed into the code.
A quick question, sorry. After my 5 hours drive from Frankfurt to Munich, I lost track a little. So have we agreed that we throw dices, or what happened?
So any other question on that? Yes.
Can I have a yes or no on that?
No. Looking back to the ethical commission, it's nearly to throwing dices, yes.
Nearly to throwing
you
dices.
don't have to put an algorithm into the car that decides where to drive. Yeah. Which one? This is what you said is not according to the Eastern part, the Eastern decision, Eastern culture. It's like it is here. So no decision may be taken. You may not include an algorithm that decides anyhow. Yeah. To weigh one.
Moving to the next question for the interest of time.
I have many questions, but I want to choose 2 or 3.
Yes.
Try to keep it short. So one, first is the trust issue on car technology. In today's car, which you can buy today in an agency, you can have automatic braking. And once it's automatic, it's autonomous. And that's it. And it is not, we should not wait for the question if sometime in future this fully autonomy comes into our car. It's there today, you can buy it. And there has been one accident, luckily without death, in petrol ring in Munich with the BMW. I think my question now is, what is your opinion about German OEMs being transparent in sharing videos of their situation, like in Tesla case? We have the videos, we have the photos, we have reports of the accident inspection in aftermath. Will it be happening in Germany to build customer trust? This is my first question.
Maybe, maybe one step back, because of the definition of your question. The EBA, the emergency brake assist, is not fully autonomous. it's only one ADAS function. Fully autonomous means steering, accelerating, and braking. And braking is just one
what I
part.
mean is it overrides the driver. This is the point.
It overrides, yes.
It overrides the driver. So if I may intervene, automated emergency brake in a pure number, I would bet it has saved more lives than it has caused any problem. Sure. There's no doubt about it. Now your question with regard to German OEMs being transparent, in terms of functional safety, with all my experiences so far at Rolf and all my colleagues can validate that, I haven't seen any other OEMs in the world taking functional safety that seriously. You know, I would bet that we're at the highest level taking functional safety seriously. And the culture that we have in Germany, we have built it over a long period. I don't want to mention any other non-German OEMs. People, if they think that they can do that in 2 years, it's difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's difficult. So I'm really proud of the safety culture that we have in Germany. And I cannot comment on any particular incidents or any OEM, but I think that answers the question. Do you want to add anything to that, or agree, disagree?
Yeah, German counselor.
Another question is, I think some misperceptions around new technologies, new mechanisms around development cycles, like over-the-air updates. For instance, expecting software developers rely on fixing some errors over the air. I think this mustn't be a valid argument. What do you think about? I heard something like that.
I really like your questions. These are really stimulating questions. Who wants to take that?
No, I would like to answer if possible, because this is one part of functional safety. You have to work according to a special life cycle model. So you have requirements, you have the architecture, you have the implementation, you have the testing. You have several kinds of several levels of testing, and these have to be done very thoroughly. And for each function you applied. And if you do the over-the-air updates, then can you do all the validation tests? And validation means in the tests in the real car, can you do that in that specific car? Because every car has little other features. And this is quite complicated. So we need to have some test cycle on the car itself. You can do complete testing of the algorithm that you send over the air. This is possible. Just the testing on module side and unit side, but you have to do some integration.
Right.
All the functions and algorithms in there work together with other machines, with other units, with other control units. And you can do that often on the site of the manufacturer.
And if I may add to this, over-the-air update is necessary because of security. Because when you ship the software in a car, the lifespan of a car is not like a cell phone. No, it's not 3 years. It's about 20 years. So a lot of new vulnerability will come in. And there is no way you can fix this without, of course you can. I mean, you can bring it to the garage, but if you want to ship a very, very quick patch, over-the-air update is necessary. But the problem that Rolf just mentioned, in terms of safety, once you put something new, that code is not certified anymore. How do you do that? One solution is to build a testing system inside the vehicle. So that is a problem that I think we'll have to deal with in the future. I do not have a clear solution to that.
So I like this aspect, because to put it in other words, it's like every car could be different. And that means you cannot test, you might not be able to test it in advance. Interesting challenge. The reason why I put this example, I mean, it was by purpose exaggerated, is I was just reading 2 weeks ago that in the game creation industry, it seems to be normal that they sell a game and then you get a DVD or something and it's not even working, and then afterwards you just get the update and then the game is working. Okay, this is a game industry, so this is not life-threatening. But then when you think a little further, this 737 MAX airplane, so this was also certified. I mean, it was not certified in Germany, but it is still like supposed to be the most critical certification process. And so these two thoughts. Next thought, you gain in the market when you're the first one to provide a product. So I mean, Tesla was showing us that. And the bad thing about it is that it gives you a strong incentive to publish early, or like, how to name it different, to release early. And then when you have this over-the-air update functionality, you might be tempted to not having thoroughly tested the things. And therefore, again, like thinking about, okay, if you're in the position to decide about such systems, force the people to test it before, because it's life-threatening again. So this was just a little sort.
I'm not against.
Can you please take the mic, and because of the live stream?
I'm not questioning over-the-air methods. Just questioning the understanding of propagated to developers. On it, or this was the point?
I got that.
Yeah.
So I hope that your assumption that it's not used for life critical functionality, that this will be true for a long time. The other things I expressed was just I fear that there might also be strong incentives not to take it that critical anymore in the future. And coming back to what I said at the total beginning, so we as a society and as legislative, as people doing the law then, or like as people voting, the people who do the laws, we should make clear to them that we rather want to pay more or have stronger laws instead of saving some money and therefore risking the safety of people. Because at the end, we're the customers, so we decide. I mean, if some manufacturer sells us an electric vehicle for 5,000 euros less and it's less safe, then the market will decide. And so, but the market can only decide within the law. And so therefore we have to make sure that the law is strict enough so that it's not happening, and that also not people from the outside are coming in and then providing the products here that are not fulfilling the safety requirements, like you have it sometimes with electronic products that come from China, for instance, that have then a similar symbol that is meaning something different.
So one last question.
Yeah, I would like to add one point. Maybe there could be something, because we were talking about testing on the car, which we can do. We can't do that. It could be some sort of swarm testing, maybe. That cars and several cars test themselves vice versa. Yeah. So that means that we need a manifold, a big manifold of different software, kinds of software. Absolutely. So we need many manufacturers and they test each other. Could be
as you can see, there's room for innovation here. So we'll take one last question before we move to the next. So who? Oh yeah, all right. We'll take both. Yeah.
So my question is to you. You mentioned about Boeing 737 MAX. Now, as a software developer who is working in automotive industry or working with self-driving cars, what would you suggest to him or her on ethics that they should keep in mind so that things like Boeing 737 MAX don't happen with cars?
So there, what I would say there is that the certification authorities should have done a better job, because it turns out that
certification authorities is a separate thing, but like somebody was talking about that throwing the dice or keeping that responsibility on the software developer. That's not always possible, because a software developer working in India would think differently than a software developer working in Germany. And that's not the way things should be. Should there be some guidelines for software developers
Boeing 737
on that?
problem, I don't think that was a software engineering problem. That was, as Mark rightly said, that was a process of the certification and the entire process.
So I think process is the answer. Yes. So we need a process, because the problem is also, as we have modularization, the one who creates the single module doesn't see the whole thing. And the one who sees the whole thing is often not the technical expert. And this...
Yeah, so to give you all, follow processes. That's it. One last question very quickly, and then we'll move to the next speaker. Yes.
When you mentioned the levels of autonomous driving cars, there was level 3 right in the middle, and there are some movements that say you should skip level 3 because you cannot guarantee at every time that the car will have enough time to hand it safely over to the driver. Do you think there is a way to hand over safely to the driver in any case, or do you also think you should go directly to level 4?
I think no. Please.
Yeah,
I think no.
Yeah. I would have intended to say no too, but we have to be political. So there's a political question. No, it may be not possible, and there are even models that don't support this 6-level model, but only a 3-level model. There may be only one driverless, completely driverless and complete driver, and maybe one in the middle that's about the one thing we have right now, the level 2, and nothing else, and then skip. So these are models that are preferred in the Far East, for example.
And the thing is, the real problem is, we know it from avionic industry, is in level 3, because oftentimes the fatalities in the avionic industry is due to the fact that the pilot was not sure if the plane is in the autopilot mode or he has to do something. So I know, I can't tell you the name of the OEM that we're working with, are going directly to level 4. They will not bring in any level 3 vehicle. So it's also happening, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so I will then introduce our next speaker, Mario Hoffmann, who's leading a Department of Security and Privacy Competence Center at Frankfurt, at Continental, one of the major tier 1. Mario, what is the statistics? Is 80% of the ECUs from Continental, or am I right to say that?
About 80% in each
ECUs?
car?
Yeah.
This would be cool.
Yeah, this would be cool. But there is a let's say large number of ECU that you see in every vehicle comes from his company. Mario is what I really like about it. He's a passionate privacy evangelist. So he's a privacy freak. So I really want Mario to sign the GDPR consent, because I mean that's what you always push for. And I'm really looking forward to your talk. Please welcome Mario Hoffmann.
Thank you very much for those kind words. So, privacy evangelist. I think need to put this on my business card. That's cool. Maybe just before I start, 2 remarks here. Here was the question of software developers in India. So we have, of course, Continental has a huge hub in Bangalore, and you can believe me when I say we have tons of processes that you have to follow all around the world. So don't worry. And there was another thing with the self-driving cars. So we also work, of course, at Continental, a lot of those issues on several levels. So as Hassan said, we provide lots of different electronic control units. Continental is number 2 after Bosch, headquartered in Hanover. We have worldwide around 240,000 people working for Continental, so quite a large company, I would say. And there is one dedicated group in Frankfurt, and 40 plus security experts, I would count. And we help all the business units worldwide, so we have more than 20 business units, making their products more robust against cybersecurity attacks. So we will hear something about cybersecurity in this life hack afterwards. So what I would like to share with you today is more like kind of, I would say I'm on a promotion tour, on an awareness tour. There I say, hey guys, in Continental and also our customers, how about data protection? How about privacy? And typically, we know, but it's the customer, so are we asking for it? So that means almost no OEM is asking us currently. But the thing is, there's something called European General Data Protection Regulation. And I try to push guys, especially with some numbers, that we need to take care and need to consider that. And this is all about here, my presentation is. So I have been told by my communication department that this device should work. Maybe it will after it will wake up again. So let's try that way first. So I've been told by my communication department, please have a disclaimer in front, because this session will be recorded. So that means it will stay forever in the internet. So that's important. So the presentation was prepared by Mario Hoffmann, that's me, in his personal capacity. So the opinions expressed in my presentation are my own and do not reflect the view of Continental. So I hope it will in the future, but this is not yet the case. It still doesn't work, so anyway, no problem.
See if I can help you.
So the thing is, I was a little bit late for your presentation, unfortunately, but I experienced lots of those emotions on my way from Frankfurt to Munich. So what we are talking about is, let's say, okay, cool.
It was not turned on.
Cool.
Sometimes the problem is simple.
Why did you mention that? So, what we are currently, it's kind of a pretty disruptive phase, I would say, for automotive as such. So maybe I would even say it's a little bit too much, because we have this connectivity, digitalization kind of progress that we try to manage. We have, of course, the autonomous cars, trying to make this possible, make this happen, that the cars can drive autonomously by having exchange of information to other cars, to other people on the street, to an infrastructure. We have smart city approaches that we say, okay, there are in the future a lot of digital services, mobility services offered by smart cities. So lots of things currently developed in parallel. And not to mention the diesel stuff and the e-mobility kind of thing. So a lot of tasks in parallel, I would say. And then I come, but guys, you have this kind of personalization in mind. Of course, mobility services, and you enter a car, and the car and the seat moves to the same position like last time, or not only in your own car, but also in rental cars. So you need some kind of profile management from somewhere that the car knows you, or at least knows your profile or some facts about you. And this is why I'm currently going around in the business units and asking, okay, guys, have you ever considered, okay, this is, of course, possibly personally identifiable information that you deal here with. So we probably need to at least consider, at least check what kind of compliance rules, regulations we have to meet. And there's not only the European General Data Protection, but there's also coming up in California, the Privacy Act. Some other countries around the world have also considered the GDPR, the European style, as a blueprint, possibly. So we are going in this direction to protect everybody's privacy in the future, step by step. So the GDPR, I think, will become kind of an export hit in this sense. So what can we do? I just, as a little snapshot here, some sources in modern cars. In modern cars, you have more than 100 electronic control units. And this is kind of the typical suspects if I try to raise awareness on this data protection topic. So we have, of course, the braking system was already mentioned here. There's one thing, event data recorder. This is kind of a development currently in automotive, kind of the black box that you know from airplanes. So because when it comes to accidents in the future, you need to prove at court, okay, who was driving? The car in autonomous mode or yourself? Because this has a huge impact on your insurance. The other things, infotainment systems, I think this will be the system where you connect your mobile phone, for example, or other devices, and exchange your phone book, maybe exchange contacts and so forth. So there will be a huge movement integration of the apps of the mobility services that you're currently using on your smartphones or other mobile devices in the car. And if you look at the industry, there are, of course, companies considering watching at a modern car just as, okay, this is a large smartphone, a smartphone with 4 wheels. So we have other things, more technical ones, like diagnostic interfaces, also telematic units, engine control units. Here it comes to information which could be interesting for predictive maintenance. So the vendor, the car manufacturer, would like to know in advance when maybe the engine needs an update or some kind of refurbished things in the garage. We need to think about also some kind of maybe weird things like a tire pressure information. Can this become a personally identifiable information? Maybe a single one, maybe not. I was asked 2 years ago already by OEMs, how about those little information here or a single radar sensor data? So come on, guys, this is not relevant to GDPR, isn't it? And so, well, it depends. So if you store and aggregate those data for a certain period of time, you could derive a navigation profile. So are you driving more in an aggressive mode, or are you more a defense driver? So these things could be derived. This is, again, interesting for insurances, for example. So there are always stakeholders, whatever kind of information the car generates, there's always somebody who would like to consume it. This is for sure. And this, to make more transparent, is one of the goals of the GDPR, transparency, as we will see later. And you could say, okay, if all this information stays in the car and only certain occasions in the garage or so, data will be computed, processed, and further aggregated. No, I think there are lots of mobility services in the future based on vehicle-to-X communication, so to other vehicles, to smart city infrastructures, and also, of course, to cloud services currently provided by OEMs, by the car manufacturers, which currently is also kind of, I don't know whether they have thought about it. Maybe you have seen that there is a Daimler cloud, there is a BMW cloud, possibly there's a Toyota cloud. I have really to check who is already in this kind of business. And there's another goal of the GDPR, which says data portability. Okay, and now I see lots of data silos popping up. And there's another thing, it's my data. So there's supposed to be some functionality, I hope, which makes it possible to get an export. So maybe after 5-7 years, I would like to change the brand. I would like to take all this data with me. It's my data, give it to me. And not as a printout, no, because somehow in a digital way that I can just personalize my new car with the same data I have already processed and generated the last 7 years. So lots of questions, lots of nightmares. Yeah, software over the air, that's another nightmare, I can tell you, but this would be also fill another presentation. So anyhow, to make it a little bit more tangible, what I typically do when I go to managers, because I need some budget of course to do these things. I say, well guys, do you know this date? Anybody? I think some of you know. So this was when the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, came into force last year. So, and then I say, yeah, okay, if you don't know, can you assume what those numbers mean? Then sometimes just I give a hint then, 4%, 4%, what does that mean? Well, this is the maximum fine that you have to pay if you violate the GDPR per case. And if you have 100 ECUs in the car, and each of those could cause a case, this can ruin you in a minute if you don't do it, if you don't consider it, if you don't address it. And the numbers are here. The first one is the Volkswagen. So the annual turnover in 2016 worldwide was 17 billion, and these would have been the maximum fine. The same here for Continental, so it's more than a billion, which makes a difference if you have it or not, certainly. This is one of our competitors, Denso. So this is how I try to get the attention. And typically if I, okay, I thought, yeah, you're right. So let's have a closer look. So closer look. Yeah, it came into force last year, but we didn't know is another argument. So how couldn't you double negation? No. How is it possible that you did not know that this exists? So there was already the Data Protection Directive in the European Union, which basically has the same stuff in it like the GDPR, just an update. The difference was there were no sanctions here, so no fees, just let's say 100,000 here, 200,000 there. So the cases in the last years, Facebook had to pay just pocket money. Nobody cared. So the next step then, okay, here update process is needed because of all these new digital connected services. So there was then, okay, in 2012, the Parliament was ready to publish here the General Data Protection Regulation as a draft. So this was draft past the EU Parliament. Then we had again kind of a negotiation phase called a trialogue in the European Union. So you have to take all the stakeholders into account here and negotiate on this. And this negotiation, there was an election in between, it was already dead. It was already dead. Well, then we had Edward Snowden. I have a little shrine at home, and every night thank you, Edward. So this, because then actually there's also a little movie I can recommend, Democracy, which shows, and it's a documentary about this process at the European Parliament, at the Commission, and all these stakeholders. Very interesting. Seeing all these influences, all these kinds of lobby things, excellent movie. So, okay, 2016 then, finally then published because of this acceleration here. Acceleration after another 4 years. It has been published, May 2016. And then again, okay, yeah, there was then this application phase, but then 2018, okay, enforced. Okay, also data protection officers, of course, know that automotive industry is pretty conservative. So if you buy a car today, don't expect that this is GDPR compliant. It has been designed 5-6 years ago. And even cars in 3 years, I would say probably not. So currently I try to influence decisions that maybe in 5-6 years, so the next generation of new cars is considering that. Actually, I had a plan here. There's an excellent episode from The Simpsons. I can really recommend. It's in the season 30, the latest. It's episode 5. It's on self-driving cars. A must see. I think we had some kind of copyright issues here. We couldn't show it here, but do it. A must. Yeah, and then now we have 2019, and I'm asking OEMs, for example, hey, I don't mention any brand, but hey guy, how about when can I buy a GDPR compliant car? Yeah, when can I expect? I mean, Continental is a tier 1 supplier, and we are, of course, we rely on getting requirements from the car manufacturers, and then Continental consider that and that, okay, dear customer, we will implement that. And I can tell you there's not that much about data protection now in those requirements. Not that much. Some of the OEMs think it's a legal problem, so we can solve it legally. But how is this supposed to be? I mean, it's in the future, because this is not the intention of the GDPR, it's not like that you buy a car and in your contract on page 10, in one of the footnotes in font size 6, it's explained that after you sign your contract, any kind of data will be sent to anybody. No, of course not. The intention is that you have the possibility to configure your privacy settings at any time. Because if I am here in the smart city Munich, and tomorrow I drive to the smart city Ingolstadt, and I would like to change my settings, because here I enjoy some of the mobility services that maybe in Ingolstadt are not provided, or I don't trust Ingolstadt for some reason. I don't care. I just want to have the choice. And this needs to be implemented, realized in future cars in some kind of interface. Human-machine interface, designers here already, a brilliant field. Because it's also not like that when you drove through a smart city, that each and every smart traffic light, are you ready to share your data with this traffic light in front of you? Yes. And 100 meters after, are you ready to share? No, of course not. I don't want to bother the passengers, the drivers, of course, you need to find strategies. I don't know, it's an open field currently. So what can we do? This is just to give then some background. If people say, yeah, what exactly is it about? And you can read, of course, the GDPR. It's pretty abstract because it's supposed to be applied to all industries. But there are, of course, some headaches here, right to be forgotten. How do we do that? Okay, as long as you have the data in the car. Okay, so even here it's not that easy to choose and delete the right data, and the car is still driving. But once you have sent it to some backend, to a cloud infrastructure, maybe shared with third parties, okay, sticky policies, some kind of data management in the background. Okay, sounds like we need another 100 people realizing that. Cost driver. Privacy by default, yeah, this is an abstract. Data portability I mentioned already. So how make this possible, that you can export your data and import it in a new car. This includes actually, what is actually identifiable information? I see it's just a question of time and aggregation kind of thing. So each and every data in my mindset can be a potential data which can become relevant to these considerations here. Yeah, and those, of course, the intensified sanctions are, that's then the go. It's nothing new. We have this in the internet. There was some kind of, from the National Strategy for Trusted Identities in Cyberspace. So this has been published by the Obama administrative at that time, 2013. And we just heard, yeah, there is an automotive security standard upcoming next year, and then we have common ground. I mean, of course, we do already a lot in cybersecurity. But the good thing here is that there is already a pretty mature standard that you can directly use. Privacy principles. ISO, so super, 29100, published 2011. Okay, this is cool. And here we all have these kind of consent and choice, purpose legitimacy. So we need to have kind of a purpose binding, purpose limitation. So it's not like that you get the data and just store it for the sake of storing it because in 3 years you have a nice business case for it. No, doesn't work like that. Data minimization. So all these kind of things that we have here now in this GDPR already well defined. It's also kind of bad because you don't have any excuse not to do it in a standard way. So having said that, then I typically move on to, okay, but is it really a risk? How can we calculate it? Okay, impact is high, but a probability. Hey guys, I mean, there are cases, and it's not only the internet guys here which have to pay fines. There's also this kind of British Airways, some data breach last year, and they now have to pay the fine to $30 million. We have the Marriott hotel chain, 99 pounds, a million, sorry, 99 million pounds. So, okay, there are cases, guys. So we need to take this really seriously. So, having said that, I would like to ask you, so I hope I triggered some of thoughts here, ideas there. So what could be, if you look at it from a holistic point of view, and I think most of you are maybe computer scientists, electrical engineers, so in this sense, okay, automotive interesting, but you also maybe drivers, passengers, you are participants of mobility kind of things. And if you now think about your own privacy, and imagine you enter a car, what could be features? How could this be kind of visible in a modern car? This kind of privacy, let's call it privacy controls. As we have maybe today, we have several security controls. Security controls are, for example, any kind of crypto. We sign software packages. We encrypt software packages before we send them over the air as an update. We have so-called secure boot processes to say, okay, the hardware and the software is integer, authentic, still the same kind of stuff, not manipulated from last time. So these are security controls. What could be privacy controls? Brainstorming now. Oh, come on. Identity management.
Identity management. So
our good
old. Actually, you know my radical point of view from automotive perspective. An automotive perspective, I think this GDPR is the wrong place to apply these data, because when I give out data from my car, I get a lot of benefit. I get traffic information. I get that makes my life easier. So why would I? What data will I not be able to give out? Yeah, please.
Do we actually do the brainstorming with or without microphone?
Yeah, with microphone, please.
With microphone.
Okay, that's bad. So first off, I tend to disagree, because first off, it's not about it's convenient. It's simply law. I have to work a lot with GDPR for work as well. I'm kind of annoyed by developers telling me that they don't want to carry it. It's law. It's illegal not doing it. Regardless of that, especially the right to be forgotten, for example, when going to the dealership, because I know companies who have to flush all of their error stores, all of their GPS tracking, everything. So they have to attach to the cars and flush everything before they go to a dealership. And if the car is broken, they can throw it away because they can't flush it anymore. And so if you're asking about what do you want to do as a driver, delete data before going to dealerships. That can, of course, be something that's hard for insurances, for example. But on the other hand, there is information that should not or mustn't be leaked during these dealerships. And dealerships are not very famous for treating data under GDPR.
So kind of a reset button that brings the car back to...
Well, a drop-down list, just like, basically like a browser. What do you want to flush? GPS coordinates? Yeah, flush it. Why does my dealership need to know that?
Yeah. I like this kind of drop-down list.
You have a mic. You can already ask.
Yeah, I have a mic. So, no, I don't have a question. I just think to me the most important thing is transparency, so that I know what is happening. Yeah. And of course, I mean, this shows another set of questions, because how to make it transparent, how to make it understandable, and so on. But to me, the solution or a key for privacy is having transparency. So to be informed what happens with my data. And once I know that, then I can do other things.
And to add to your remark, I totally agree that a law is a law. You have to comply to that. That's one argument that's undeniable. But at the same time, the law has to make sense. When it comes to automotive, the example that you gave, I fully agree with you. There are areas where you have tons of sensor data, tons of data that will tell you the quality of the street, the quality of the driving, and these are the data that can unlock potential innovation. And my fear is due to GDPR, because GDPR is very broad about personal data and personally identifiable data. Pretty much everything, even the gasoline level of your car, can be categorized as personal data. Personally identifiable data is a little bit shrinked, that where you can triangulate a person, but everything can relate to personal data. And if you my fear is, because of this legislation, we don't slow down the industry, because we are in a dawn of an era that will have massive innovation, big data innovation. That was the point.
Currently, yes. I try to convince Continental. Yeah. Why not taking this as a marketing argument? Being the first one making that claim. Hey, we are supporting GDPR. We are privacy compliant. 2023. Bam. Just as a kind of a vision, as a goal, and then we see what happens. I think, and also I also try to. I know those arguments, but I try to sell it like, well, we are not the party breakers. So all these kind of services, I also like. I will also enjoy in the future, but there are some kind of limitations needed. And if it's only that, okay, I give my data, but for this specific purpose, only for that service.
But it's a question to you. You were since you worked a lot with GDPR. I think, this is my personal opinion, it would not be possible to apply GDPR without customizing for the automotive industry. Or do you see, I mean, this will really have to customize application. It's a very general law, and automotive industry is a very, very special industry. So what's your take on that? It's a question to both of you, maybe.
Well, first I would like to try to apply it and to understand the implications. And at one point, and this is of course also with the security implications, I also say if you try to make your car 100% cyber secure, it will not run any longer. It will not drive any longer. Because, I mean, pressing the engine button and then waiting until some kind of certificate for the secure boot process will be validated in a back end, no way. Yeah, you press the button and the engine starts. Of course, these kinds of experiences you will also enjoy in the future. So we need to find some kind of balance. And this is all what it's all about. It's just like if you don't have GDPR, it's completely unbalanced because the data is just gone and used for everything.
So the example that you give, I'm fully with them. I mean, if you have a breach, protecting a breach is one thing. And if you categorize data that you are not able to collect for innovation is another.
Yeah, I mean, protection for a breach is already a security question.
Yeah.
So
the data privacy security is interrelated. There's no way you can segregate them.
If the data is gone, you certainly had some kind of security problem.
Please.
I don't really know if I fully got your question, but regarding how to apply GDPR to the automotive industry, what I also see is that exactly this back-end process, because I also heard from like BMW who's complaining that they have massive problems with IT security for their cars simply by the amount of requests that they get from cars. These cloud solutions that you also mentioned, they are standard web applications. And there is no excuse for not doing cybersecurity there. And there are ways how you can bake GDPR into architecture. That is actually something for computer science students as well to learn, baking security and privacy into data structures and into design principles. So for example, predictive maintenance, assuming that you pass a car ID and a what do I know? Some metadata that would indicate a motor damage in near future. If you pass that to the backend, why do you always need the same ID? You can simply swap IDs between messages, because theoretically the indicators that will indicate that a motor damage will happen, they will be visible in one snapshot of the data, and you don't have to know what other data was in history. That is what other companies, automotive systems that do predictive maintenance also can do. And we also already have predictive maintenance, for example, in trains.
And there's also like what we could put like data scarcity, so that it stays scarce with the data as much as possible.
Yes. So that is, I agree, it is something where you have to highly customize the application, definitely. And that is also again something for the automotive. As you said, it takes 3 years for development. You have to bake it into the architecture, and that says it's not only a matter of 5 years, it's a matter of 6 to 10 years of development fully agreed. But it should be possible.
And I give you an example what happens if you don't have these limitations or these kind of mindset. Maybe you remember the first realization or implementations of the e-call, or the emergency call, supposed to help you in an accident. You cannot, maybe you're kind of already unconscious and you cannot call the emergencies by yourself, and the car just sends an emergency call. Oh well, super service, I like it. But the first implementations was like, okay, you need a GPS coordinate for providing that service. So what happened is there were implementations sending GPS coordinates periodically, every minute. But why? I mean, I'm driving now 30 years, no accidents. And if I imagine that the last 30 years there's some kind of back-end service collecting my GPS data, just for the sake of what? A complete profile wherever I was, how long I've been there. No, this is by far, this is crazy. Why not sending the GPS coordinate when an accident occurred? Okay, if of course the e-call device is also damaged, okay, bad luck. But Yeah,
Well,
balance.
Well, I agree, and allow me to be provoking here. I understand this is a problem, but is that a problem for automotive industry? Even if you don't use a car, wherever you go, it's tracked because you carry this little device.
Oh. For me, it's just the question of having the choice.
Right. Agreed.
And that's it.
Can we answer one short question from our online viewer?
Yes, please.
As long as it's not my boss, yes.
I'll just read it for you. He asked, nowadays, autonomous smart vehicles can generate an unprecedented amount of data and must be stored and sold. An autonomous vehicle can generate as much as 1 gigabyte of data per second, and all of it will be put to use by somebody. Car manufacturers will make great profit by selling this vehicle-derived data than from selling the vehicles themselves. My question is, that data must be secured, and can the blockchain be used as a storage and transfer system for vehicle-derived data? And how can it be used to make sure that consenting users knows who's accessing and using their data? Which all companies working in this front, I'm sorry, that's what's written
Don't worry, after the blockchain stuff, I was out.
Okay. So can you tell us the name of the person?
Anonymous, of course.
Akan Pandey.
Akan Pandey, very good question. The question, I mean, there are several parts of this question. The first part is really interesting, that what he's saying is there will be enormous amount of data from the automotive industry that we will be actually gathering in the back end. Right now, the challenge of the industry is the industry doesn't even know how to send it in the back end, because let me give you an example. An ECU will be generating sensor data several thousand instances, several microseconds. So there is the infrastructure, the current infrastructure doesn't even support it. And the question is, when you will be able to send it, how to secure the data. This was his first question, and then obviously the blockchain part, if blockchain is a viable solution to that or not. So Mario.
Yes. What I may add here is, I think we have a little time until all these kinds of surveillance, profiling, lots of control scenarios will become more realistic. We are just, let's say, we do predictions, what we think what will happen in 5-6 years if we just continue like we do currently. And of course, today we have limitations like that. It starts in the car. We don't have the storage there. And every time I go to my business units and say, oh, well, I think we need, also for updates, we need double bank, also for those testing things, we need some kind of more processing power. What does it cost? €1 more? Are you crazy? So there's a huge budget and cost pressure. And this gives us just a little time. So as soon as we have cheaper storage, cheaper processing power, of course we will have all these scenarios that we discuss here. So it definitely makes sense to go into those studies. So if you are computer science or electrical engineering, automotive, yay.
So I mean, I'm fully with GDPR on everything when it comes to data protection, securing the data. When the limitation goes to collecting the data, my fear is that might stop innovation that we need.
But this is a valid point. I mean, you cannot. So on the one hand, you want to protect the people. On the other hand, you say like, okay, innovation over everything. And GDPR is not about innovation; it's about protecting people. And so it's like, this is the economy wild west, and this is the well-being of the people now and in the future.
I agree. I mean, this is two sides of the coin. I mean, innovation does not necessarily, do harm to people. It may, but not necessarily.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, the way you present it, it's like the GDPR is fully stopping the innovation the way it's currently getting implemented. And your point was also you have to anonymize data, and your point was like it's not getting collected at the moment. So in the talk in the last session, in the last meetup, I told something about like, okay, data in Facebook, for instance, was getting stored for many years, and now we have machine learning, so we can crawl it and we can do something with it. Which brings another dimension, because if we can store something now, it might be bad in the future for my personalization of the data. Like the fuel level or this walking example that I said at the beginning. So it might be a feature where we don't see now how we can identify us with this feature. But having then this machine learning, for instance, could be that you just throw it on it and then you don't know how it does it, but then the fuel level is exactly matchable to me because I'm just getting gas at this and that time. And this makes it even more complicated, coming back to you, saying like, okay, so if we would want to protect everything that might happen in the future, then we'll definitely stop innovation, because then we cannot do anything anymore. It's like you said, the car will not drive anymore.
With absolute.
Yeah.
So for the interest of time.
Yeah, and this is not what I want.
Yeah.
What I want is just to be asked. I would like to be in the driver's seat
fully with you
for my data.
100% with you.
And as soon as I do my consent, and transparency, user consent, okay, use this data for what this and that purpose, I'm fine.
Transparency is fully 100% with you.
But it's not feasible, because then it's like with your traffic light example. You have too many cases and they are too complicated for the people.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, these are the practical questions.
These are the practical questions. So now, for the interest of time, how about take one question or one remark and go to the break?
Hey, I have some more slides.
You have some more slides. I thought we were in the Q&A. Pardon me for that. So, yeah.
I think there are 2 or 3 more slides.
So we take this one and then we'll hand it over.
One remark or maybe an idea to govern the reason behind certain access or collection of data. So there were some points in some of the lists of standards, like reasoning why you collect specific data. Yeah. So if you consider a little removed from automotive for a minute, mobile devices. So there are many apps out there have certain reasons for collecting this and that, and then but there's nowhere a guarantee that collect data for that purpose is not used for any other purpose. So there's no way of accessing this information or controlling it. So I think user interaction, maybe it can be a post-purchase kind of configuration type of interaction, not to avoid asking on each traffic light. So this kind could be a way to let users set certain things, but I think the key is then to ongoing guaranteeing of certain reasons are not reused for other purposes. How should you, I think this must be part of the internal certification of OEMs in their bring up their product, maybe or the air cycles repeated. And regarding really, if we should think for a minute regarding only privacy, there's of course enough reasoning for the letting innovation go on. For the privacy part, for instance, sensor data, why should all radar data real time must be pumped up to the cloud from all vehicles? So it's not feasible to process them anyway. So and a solution to this might be to let drivers who are willing to contribute to science or innovation say, okay, let me send you my data, so you have a reasonable, smaller set of data you can process and still innovate on it, and let others choose to be free of that.
Great.
Right. In this sense, I think the industry is currently just at the beginning. In this sense, I would even differentiate between, let's call them good guys and bad guys. So currently, I try to take care of the good guys who would like to be compliant. So we have, of course, other issues like potential misuse once the data is gone to some backend, and there are, of course, I would even say this is by default. You can say that all the apps that you download for free you pay with your data. And it will, of course, it will be sold in the back end to third parties, of course. That's the business case.
I mean, you always end up paying. You either pay with money, or you pay with data, or you pay with attention, eyeball. You always end up paying in one way or the other.
Yeah. And if I would pay for Facebook if I could, but this service does not exist. So I'm not at Facebook. I had the choice. Okay, my social life is of course pretty poor, but this is the price I have to pay. Anyway, let's continue.
But you're on Instagram, right?
No.
Kidding.
No Twitter, no. No.
I know.
But now you're on YouTube.
LinkedIn. On LinkedIn. I'm on.
But you will be all over the place because of this.
And what?
This event will be all over the place.
Yeah, I know.
Just that you know. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so just to quickly, let's say, 2-3 more slides, and then we have a break. So this is how my research colleagues looked at it the last 3-4 years from kind of a configuration kind of thing. So how could settings look like in a car? So assume that this is displayed in your future entertainment, infotainment system in the car. Of course, only if you stand, not while driving, because while driving, reading, no, don't do that. So, but the thing is, the point is here that you have different pre-configurations for typical categories, like you would like to share the road condition, maybe you would like to share vehicle diagnosis, maybe you would like to share dangerous objects. What else do we have? Traffic signs, maybe you would like to share here location services, maybe efficient driving, you would like to share information with backend services. So, and if we have then a closer look here at the road condition, you can configure. Okay, would you like to share the speed? Would you like to share traction system information, GPS, temperature, suspension system? So these are some data that could be shared, and you can configure it. I tend to say that this service doesn't make sense if you don't share the GPS coordinate. But if you think a little bit about, okay, but couldn't we make it a little bit more privacy preserving? If there is just one single road, it's pretty clear which road you drive. So maybe the cell information from a mobile network could be enough. Not necessarily, it needs to be the GPS coordinate, which makes it possible to locate you exactly. So, and these are, just thoughts, just let's say triggers to think in the right direction, to ask the right questions. And this is currently the status we are. We are by far from solutions. Currently, I think OEMs, car manufacturers, tend to have the strategy, okay, if you'd like not to share data, there's some privacy mode. So you press just one button in the car and then no data is sent to anyone. But then I think this is unbalanced because I would like to enjoy mobility services. So lots of efforts, I think, in this direction to be done in the future. So make it short takeaways, the why, the what, and the how. I think the why is pretty clear. I will not turn managers or car manufacturers into privacy evangelists. It's not like because they think, oh, GDPR, brilliant, we do. No, it's just sanctions. When it comes to money, there will be actions. What could be like if we put all these kind of aspects and more into kind of a privacy engineering tool set for automotive, whatever that means, whatever is in it, but just to have kind of, if I've been asked in the future, let's say in 3 years from now, OEMs start to ask, okay, we would like to have the autonomous driving ECU, but GDPR compliant. Then I open my privacy toolbox and I know, okay, anonymization, bam, data lifecycle management, bam, some kind of signatures, sticky policies, bam, bam, bam. And then these kind of things, I think, hope will happen in the future as kind of solutions, as part of components of this tool set. And how, I think it will be holistic, so you need kind of this end-to-end. You need to have policy enforcement points, of course, in the back end. So metadata on the data that you send to some services, that the services know how they can use it. Also, it does not come for free, these kind of developments, of course. It will be multidisciplinary, maybe even more than security. You will have lawyers, you will have kind of user-machine interface experts, how to make things transparent and visible and when. And in automotive dimensions, we need to have it fast. We need to take decisions now to have GDPR compliant cars in 5-6 years. So I think this is the key takeaways. So my contact data, if you like to contact me afterwards, of course, happy to try to answer your questions. And remember, privacy is an attitude and not for sale. Thank you.
So before the break, is there any imminent question right away that you'd like to ask? I'll take one. No? Then enjoy. Oh, sure.
So one technique that you can do is anonymizing data and using fuzzing, for instance. Are you aware of that someone is doing that already, and for which kind of data? No. Okay.
Not in automotive.
Yeah.
We had discussions, let's say, 6-7 years ago when we worked together at Fraunhofer with mobile network operators, looking at location-based services, and we discussed at least these questions like fuzzing. Do we need to track people for this and that service on GPS data? Can it be some kind of zones-based approaches? So there are some, let's say, privacy-enhancing technologies from other domains which could be maybe also applied in automotive, but don't know yet.
Okay. Thanks.
Great. So thank you very much. So we'll take a short break. In the meantime, we'll set up the demo here. So feel free to have some drinks, grab some beer, snacks here, and do some networking. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Mario. It was great.
Sure.
Loved it.
Das ist jetzt nicht fair.
Great. Perfect timing. Yeah.
Warte, dann tupfe ich mich nochmal ab.
Yes, please take your drinks and yeah, we'll start the demo in a second. So welcome back after the break. Kai, are we live? Okay, perfect. So before we begin the demo, let me tell you a little bit about our company, Matrickz. All my colleagues here are from Matrickz, and we work 100% in the automotive domain. We work in 4 different areas. One is ECU development. So we develop the end-to-end ECU. We work as a tier 2 company. So tier 1 companies make the system. The system consists of software, hardware, and mechanics. They provide the hardware and the mechanics, and we make the software for them. And this is what our one department. And then we have a safety, functional safety, and a SPICE department where we do safety consulting, safety concept, and that kind of activities. We have a testing department. If you're familiar with the classic V model of automotive, we're on the right side of the V model in this testing department. And finally, we have a security department. And my colleagues here are going to show you one demonstrator they have built as our penetration testing test bench. And one thing that I want to tell you, we were talking to some of you in the break, that we're looking for new colleagues in this area in security. We're looking for master thesis students or interns. If you guys are interested joining a hands-on project where you will be able to do hands-on work with real ECUs, with real cars, where you will be finding out mechanisms to break into it, this is a very interesting area to join. Please feel free to write me, get in touch with me. We'll be happy to have a talk. So without further ado, I'm giving it over to Pravin. Pravin, why don't you introduce yourself and take over the demo? Thank you.
Okay. So Kai is working, right? Yes. Okay, perfect. So my name is Pravin Swarna. So currently I'm responsible for embedded development and AutoSAR department here at Matrickz. My entire experience is in the automotive domain. Throughout the projects I've worked on AutoSAR and functional safety. So in this demo, I mean, this is something really, really interesting for us. My colleagues are also with me who helped in this demo. I can introduce Falgun. He's the one who has set up this demo along with Klaus. He's in the back seat relaxing. And my colleague Jay, who is taking part on the hacking part, like how do you penetrate into the ECU and how do you hack messages. So before we show the demo, I would like to go through a few of the slides to give a bit of a motivation into the project. Maybe we'll start. Okay. So normally the question comes before we start into anything, why security is important in a car? I'm sure based on the previous talks from other speakers, now we have more reasons to say why security is important. Especially in the past decade, based on some of the use cases of hacking a car, the OEMs or the car companies are much more serious about the security now. And also with the autonomous driving, which is rapidly coming into the picture, security is playing more and more important. And also we have a connected cars coming up. And there was also a mention about the new security standard, ISO 21434, which is also coming in 2020. So normally we currently have a standard ISO 26262 for the safety, but when it comes to security, there are no standards yet. So it could differ from project to project or companies to company. So maybe from next year we will have some definite standard for the security, wherein it defines each of the life cycle for the entire project, which makes maybe our life much easier. Okay, so before we go into the actual topic, let's see some of the consequences. Hacking, maybe an unauthorized person may be able to lock or use case coming from keyless go, the issue related to keyless go. There was hacking done by ADAC way back in 2014. So what they did was, when the car owner was sleeping in a bedroom, and the key fob is with him in the bedroom or in his living room, and the car is in the garage. So normally, in order to open the door, it's in the PEPs, it's a passive entry, passive start. Normally, in order to open the car, you need to have authentication between the car fob and the key fob and the car computer. So what they did was they came up with a device which didn't really cost more than few €100. So they did this handshaking between the key fob, which is in the bedroom or a living room, and the car, which is in the garage. So next day when you wake up, you only have a key fob, no more car. So I have also worked on a similar project for one of the German OEM for almost 2 to 3 years. So even when I see that project, the entire ECU of this keyless entry, keyless start had hardly one safety goal. The only one safety goal is whatever the message you read or the the start stop button you read, that should be safe. Other than that, what about the security bit? The authentication happening between the key fob and the car computer, there was no mention. Why there is no mention? Because there was no standard. This could be one reason, or maybe the OEM doesn't think which may be of high importance. But over a period of time, now if you see maybe 4 years back, if you see a ECU of a keyless go, and if you see a keyless go ECU now, there's a lot of difference. Maybe long back then we were using RF frequency, now there are NFC is being used, or there are ultra wideband frequency is being used, shortening the time, and also they have set a definite time limit. The handshake should happen between few milliseconds, otherwise it won't be considered as authentic. So there are many other mechanisms, but definitely if you consider, okay, is this enough? Maybe we don't know, because there is no standard in place. Other than that, there are also different use cases. Maybe the famous one, the hacking of Chrysler Jeep. This is something you all knew. That is something started with the. Is all good? Microphone? Okay.
We have a problem with the second microphone.
Is the mic working at all, Kai? I will check it. You check.
So it's fine, right? Okay. So I was talking about the Chrysler Jeep hack, the normally which started, getting into the infotainment system, because normally the car companies also say, hey, there is you got into the infotainment system, but not into the CAN bus. So there is nothing much you can control, because whenever this attack started, also it was normally with increasing the volume. Maybe, for example, if you are in a high speed and if the volume is suddenly increased of the car radio or car multimedia, then it can have an effect. So normally even the companies say that, hey, there is kind of isolation between the CAN bus communication and the infotainment. If you really get into infotainment, there is nothing much you can do. But again, they improvised their hacking, and they were also able to download their own version of software through which they can get into the CAN bus system. So they could control almost, the entire car. So there are many other cases where you can modify the firmware, or you can update the remote firmware maliciously. This was also one of the second phase of the Chrysler Jeep attack, and also inject arbitrary CAN packets. So there is a lot of consequences if someone can really get into the car, or can access the car. Okay. Now coming to the possibilities of hacking, there are two types. One is the wired access. You have a wired access to the car. You have access to normally the CAN bus or the OBD port of the car, wherein you can connect your ECU or hacking ECU to the OBD port, and you can try to read the CAN messages. The second one is a remote access, that is normally happens via Wi-Fi or a Bluetooth. If you are in a Bluetooth zone, then with the same frequency, or with a Wi-Fi, if you're in the same network, there are possibilities, and also with the GSM. So normally it's a wired and remote access, but in today's demo we are more concentrating on the wired access. So we're going to talk about how we can get into the CAN bus of the car, or and try to read the CAN messages, and how we can alter to show our control over the car ECU. Yeah. Okay, so now coming to the car hacking technique, there is something called autoimmune. Have you heard of this word, autoimmune? This is also one of the disease. There is a disease called autoimmune. So normally autoimmune is a disease where immune system of your body by mistakenly attacks your own body cells. So normally when it comes to hacking, what we do is the hacker of the ECU waits for a target component to send off one of the frame. For example, if you want to hack X ECU, then you wait for its frame, your ECU will wait for its frame, and at the same instance the hacker ECU sends its own frame by corrupting single bit that overwrites the original frame of the targeted ECU. So by doing this, what happens is whenever the target ECU identifies that okay, there is an incorrect bit, it tries to recall the message, recall this faulty message. So over a period of time, by doing this way often, you make this target ECU feel that it is already sending a lot of faulty messages, and also it will inform the network that okay, maybe something wrong with me, so I will disconnect. So this is one of the hacking technique where normally used not to override any functionality, rather to disable one of the functionality. So that's how it works with the autoimmune. There is another hacking technique where we modify the content of the message. So the first one is not about the, modifying the content of the message or overriding, but the second one is about the modifying the content of the message. So here you get into the car CAN bus system, maybe through a OBD port, and try to listen in all the messages, because you don't know what CRC they are using or what polynomial they are using, so you won't be able to hack that easily. So you will start listening to the messages which is being exchanged in the CAN bus, and once enough messages are accumulated, we start analyzing the content of the message, like okay, what is the arbitration ID, what is the message length, what is the content of the message, what is the CRC, etc. We try to capture the data, we try to analyze the CAN messages. So in this case, we also try out different CRC polynomial functions, because we don't know, there are n number of CRC polynomial functions, and the manufacturer of the ECU or that function might be using any of them, so you don't know. So it's kind of a brute force. You have to keep trying with a different polynomial, different CRC until you get it. And if there is try to send a new frame with some of the arbitration IDs and observe the response, because it's kind of a trial and error method, brute force. So you keep checking. Whenever it is not the right CRC or it is not the right ID, you will get the negative message back. So if there is a negative response, then try to change the arbitration IDs and CRCs. Repeat this enough times, and until you get the right CRC, in the sense you try to read the messages, what CRC or the polynomial they use. Until that, you should keep using it. It's normally kind of a brute force. If you write the algorithm, you can try out several different possibilities of CRC, so you can find it out easily. And after this, once you get to know what is the frame and what is the arbitration ID, what is the length, what is the polynomial is being used, you can modify these messages, or you can send your own messages with the same bit length and CRC. So normally you will have the control over the ECU. Okay, so this is more of a basic or kind of introduction into what we are trying to do. Now I'll give it to my colleague Falgun, so he will take you through the demo or the setting up the demo, what all the different ECUs are used and how it is being assembled.
Thank you, Praveen. As Praveen explained, the brief introduction of why the car hacking is actually important. So now let's get into the demo setup. So before that, a general introduction of what an ECU is. ECU is just a small embedded digital computer, and then it runs in a closed control. It tries to read the data, sensor data from different sensors. It handles specific tasks, like for example, there might be engine control ECU, which handles the speed, RPM and stuff. There are typically around 80 to 100 ECUs in a modern car, and the examples of ECUs are, as you can see, body control module, powertrain control module, door control unit, engine control unit, speed control unit, transmission control unit, and ADAS, the newly coming up ADAS ECUs. Now this is how a typical car looks like. So there are various ECUs connected, and each of these ECUs will handle specific set of functionalities, and each of these ECUs are in communicating between each other using the CAN network. There will be CAN messages that get exchanged, and there are also other set of messages like LIN, FlexRay, that will be specific to some of the modules, like for example the door control module. To communicate with the actual mechanical part, it uses the LIN, but majority in the car, the complete network would be connected over a CAN. This is how a CAN network looks like. It's a very minimized model of a CAN network. So there will be a main CAN bus to which all the ECUs will have connections, and each of the whichever ECU wants to send a message, it puts the message onto the CAN bus and with a specific destination ID, and that destination ID will be programmed in different ECUs. So whichever ECU has to receive this information, so it receives this information, unpacks the information, and processes the information and takes the necessary actions. So here you can see a message that is put on the CAN bus is accessible to every ECU. So this is the main principle that we are going to use to hack the car network. So if we get an access to the CAN bus in the car, so then a small ECU as small as a Raspberry Pi, we get the CAN messages, and then once we start deciphering the messages, we can get, as Praveen explained in the technique of hacking. So we get the CAN message, and then we try to analyze, and then we send out the correct arbitration ID and the functions. And also how a car can be hacked. There are these OBD ports, onboard diagnostic ports. So we connect to the onboard diagnostic port, and then this will be available under the steering wheel or near the bumper. So using these OBD ports, we hook up the OBD port with a connector, and then from there we can start sniffing the CAN messages like on a Linux terminal, where you just use a CAN dump, and then you start receiving all the CAN messages. And this is the block diagram of our setup. We have 3 ECUs. One ECU is the NXP board. The other unit is the vector. We have used the vector canoe display. This is to simulate the display unit function. And the third ECU is the hacker ECU. We have chosen the Raspberry Pi, and we have added the CAN transceiver on top of that. So there is a connection between the main ECU and the NXP board and the vector canoe. The thing that we want to stress here is this replicates the small functionality of a car, and if the hacker ECU, if the hacker tries to get access to the main CAN bus and gets a connection out, so he can connect that CAN bus to the hacker ECU, which is the Raspberry Pi, and then start sniffing the messages. So one thing I forgot to mention was, so in a CAN bus, there are mainly 3 wires. One is CAN high, one is CAN low, and then the third one is ground. So basically we need 3 wires to pull it out and then connect to the small ECU, and then we should be able to read all the CAN messages. And this is a small setup that we have done, a 3-way connector to get the CAN messages out onto the Raspberry Pi. So this is the complete connected setup. The setup is here. It's due to the place constraint, we'll not be able to show. We'll show the demo on the canoe display board, but this is how the connected setup looks like. Now, so what do we do on the connected hacker ECU? So first of all, when we open a connection, we open a SSH connection onto the Raspberry Pi. We have on the Linux OS, we just open up the connection and then we issue the command can dump. This command will tell us all the CAN messages that is being exchanged on the CAN bus, or rather all the CAN messages that the Raspberry Pi is able to see. So how do we interpret a CAN message here? So each of the entry is a CAN bus, and this is the network ID channel name. This is whether it is a transmitted message or a received message in terms of the connected device, which is the Raspberry Pi ECU, and this is the arbitration ID. This is the data length code, and this is the data itself. So here, as you can see, we have taken a snapshot of the CAN dump, which we connected onto the Raspberry Pi. And what we try to do is, once we start receiving the messages, we take a bulk amount of message. We start analyzing each of these message, try to see what different messages are getting periodically exchanged between the NXP board and the vector canoe, and then try to find out which is the arbitration ID which is really important. And then after that, we try to send the message back again using our NXP, our Raspberry Pi board. If we get a negative response code, like for example here, we send some message, and I think here, okay, so in the demo we will show the negative response code. And then how do we send a message? It would be using a CAN send. That's another API. So using CAN send, we send out the message. The format would be the CAN channel interface name, and then next the arbitration ID. Hash is the, we give hash to differentiate between the arbitration ID and the data, and the complete data that we send. So whenever we send that message, so you can see that here in the CAN the Raspberry Pi is trying to transmit. That's why it's a transmit message, and then the whole message is being sent onto the network. So now we'll switch into the demo. Yeah. So this is the Canoe dashboard that we have developed. So this is a very small part of the dashboard. We have tried to, the functionality that we have implemented in our NXP board is a speedometer, the fuel tank indicator, the RPM, the left and right indicator lights, and then we have the volume control here, and then different radio station being played. So we have also simulated the messages that get transmitted. So using the keyboard, whenever we press some keys, so that would simulate the message in terms of, like for example, if the driver is pressing on the accelerator button, so we have simulated that using a key press. So like for example, if I press So if I keep pressing the keyboard button, specific key button, then the speed keeps increasing and the speed decreases. I can switch on the indicator light, switch it off. So this is the simulation of a normal car, a small simulation of the small part of the simulation of the normal car that we have done. Now there is another PC that is connected here, and there is the Raspberry Pi. This is the hacker ECU that we have programmed, and then the connection is made to the Raspberry Pi, and Jay will explain here what he's going to do with the hacking ECU. I'll just okay. So this is the terminal 3 SSH terminal that he has opened onto the Raspberry Pi. So we are logged into the Raspberry Pi and then we are okay. So what he would, the action that he would be doing is try to sniff the CAN message by using a CAN dump. All the messages that are being transmitted over on the CAN bus will be displayed on the CAN dump, and then we have already analyzed the code. So he'll be trying to send CAN messages on top over the SSH connection from the Raspberry Pi to the NXP board. So if there is we also have the CRC functions implemented. So without CRC it would give us a negative response code, and then we have brute forced, as Praveen had mentioned previously. So we had brute forced using the different polynomial function to find out what is the exact polynomial function that has been used in the NXP board. And once we get the right polynomial function using the different arbitration ID, we try to have have written a script which will try to send out the message periodically, different important messages, like for example in terms of speed it keeps changing. So whatever value that is being sent from the main ECU, main car ECU, from the which is a simulated version of the driver's input, it will get masked using by the Raspberry Pi hacked commands. Just a second, we are trying to get into the Raspberry Pi SSH connection.
In the meantime, does anybody have any questions? If you have one, Praveen can take one. Yeah.
What is the arbitration ID?
What is an arbitration ID?
Just a second.
Maybe I can answer.
Yeah.
ID, so when I send a CAN message.
Okay, clauses.
So when I send a CAN message, I have an address where I want to send the CAN message, and this is identified the address by the arbitration ID. So this includes the ID of the receiver of the CAN message, and also has a priority information from the CAN message, because the arbitration is a rule of the priority.
Let's just switch this off.
So my question would be, what hacker would use this way to get into a car? Because as I understood it, you have to get into the car to put the Raspberry Pi in.
Right. It's a very good question. It's a very good question because this is a scenario that is not very known at large, and the question is why. I mean, I need a physical access. Why would that happen? But that's very typical, because most of the vulnerabilities that we have seen in the past, for example, the vulnerability discovered by ADAC, it was Audi TT vulnerability with an airbag disabling. That happened in the garage. So this is exactly, this OBD2 port is exactly for when you take the car to the garage for your service provider to plug in and update your software. It turns out there was a malicious software in the PC of the service provider, and there was some malicious code in it. So it is very likely that you will be able to do that. Now, the second scenario, imagine that you do not have any access, but still this OBD2 port is very, very vulnerable, because the development is going toward in this direction, that you can buy actually devices from the market that gives you a Bluetooth connection with your mobile device with an OBD2 port. And that's it. If you can somehow get into the OBD2 port remotely The rest is what Falgun is showing here.
Okay.
That's why it's very important. But good question, yeah.
So you don't always need the physical access. You can also do it by remote.
You can also do it if there is a remote interface to the
Okay.
OBD2 port, which will be the future. You will be able to connect your mobile device with OBD2 port, and then this is the rest of the mechanism is roughly the same.
Okay.
Yeah, so to add on to Hassan's point, so the whatever Raspberry Pi unit that we are having here, so we can just make that as a hacker unit and then plug into the OBD port and then leave it in the car, and we might just add a Wi-Fi module on top of that, and then from outside anywhere you can just connect into this Wi-Fi network and then start hacking into that.
And that's how they hack the keyless Go cars?
No, keyless Go is using...
keyless Go was not done that way.
It was not even a hack, right? It was, explain.
It was more of, it was more of creating a kind of a message repeater, which, because normally if the key fob is in the bedroom and the car is in the garage, the distance is more. Normally this handshake doesn't happen. So they will create one more hardware device, which is kind of a repeater. So it will repeat the message, amplify it, so that it makes it feel to the key fob that, to the car that key fob is near, so that the handshake is happening. But this is not something physically connecting. But as I said, it's not that always you have to connect an Raspberry Pi. This is something we are showing to a car in order to get into the canvas. There are also other ways, like I show in the said in the Chrysler hack. First they got into the infotainment, then they were able to download the malicious firmware through which they are able to get into the canvas. So that is also possible. Yeah.
What is the minimum number of trials for hacking?
Okay. Well, that is a very good question, and I think this question is I mean, minimum amount of trial to crack the CRC, right? It will depend. This is something that will depend on the length of the message and a lot of things. So the short answer is it's possible with a very simple PC. It doesn't take forever.
In a simple case, you experienced?
Well, I mean, I tend not to give you an answer because this is a mathematical question. If I don't have the exact number, I would...
So again, it depends on the complexity of the crypto algorithm that you want to use. So if you're having some messages which are not crypto encrypted, not all the messages are encrypted. So if you are having some messages which are very much periodic and then not that critical, then you can literally read out the message and then just send the same message, analyze, which would take like half an hour, and then send out the message. If the algorithm is really complicated, you try out a large number of times, and then one thing that you can do is take a huge amount of CAN dump and then not send to the on the network, but just try it out different combination using a script saying that, okay, for this kind of input, what would be my CRC? And you have the calculated CRC on the message itself, the received message itself. So you try to calculate and then try to match with one message and then try repeating the same thing on the different messages. Once you make sure that you have a feeling of, okay, this might be the CRC, then probably you can try it on the real car.
So you had a question?
I had the exact same question.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so sorry for the delay, we got the things back up. So now I hope you can see the font, but if not, he's just trying to do a CAN dump. So these are the messages that are getting exchanged in the CAN ECU. So if I say, if I change any of this code, so you can see different messages being exchanged here. So using this, he'll try to send a CAN message. You can see that, it is CRC protected. You cannot actually notice from here that it is CRC protected, but it is CRC protected. But once he tries to send the CAN message, yeah, so here is the negative response code that we got for that particular arbitration ID. He tried to send it for 407, and then we got 07 and FF. That is the negative response code we got. So that's when he realizes that, okay, there is something wrong, and then he tries to use the CRC function, and then using that he has written a script which he'll be running, and this is the output when he runs the script. He has found out, analyzed, and then found out the right CRC function, which will not be showing here. So after getting the right CRC function, he has written a script which will try sending different messages. So if you see, the fuel indicator is just going haywire just because of the script. He is trying to send a message every 1 second, and whatever the main ECU does, it does not matter at all in this meantime, because that signal is getting masked directly from by the hacked ECU. And this is the speed change ECU. So the speed and RPMs are getting changed randomly, even when the actual speed is different. So this is a very major security threat, because once the hacker gets access to these messages, say for example the driver is driving the car on the highway, so he tries to see this different speed. Actually the car might not be going at this speed, but he'll get a shock of his life that what is happening. I'm right now I'm going at 250 speed, and then suddenly changing back to 40 kilometers per hour. So this is a very security threat consequence. So now, yeah, and also we have seen this being done on a real car. We had taken a small car dump, the can dump from the real car, and then we had analyzed. Based on that, using that functionality, we have coded a minimalistic set of functionalities on the small ECU. So now Jay will be explaining he'll be explaining about the future scope of the project.
So right now we just implemented a minimalistic functionality, and going forward we need to prove this concept on a larger scale. So for that we need to try the UDS protocol, where we flash the software, and if we're able to hack into a secure session on the so if you're able to hack into the secure session, we'll be able to control the firmware that is being written, and also reverse engineer. So yeah. So as you know, the UDS is a standard protocol for the diagnostic functionality, where we have off-board diagnostics, where in a garage somebody can diagnose your vehicle for faults and errors. And so some of the major so there are different services, many of which you can use to follow a secure flash. And if somebody is gaining access into the secure session using some of these IDs that you see on the screen, it's also possible that you corrupt the firmware. But as in many cases, there is a check on the downloaded firmware before you start execution. There's a problem that there's also a possibility that this is covered in the current safety mechanisms. But what is not covered is when you try to read the memory by reading from a particular address, which in most cases can be guessed. And here you have access to the firmware, and you'll be able to reverse engineer the firmware using some reverse engineering tools like Gdpr, and this can be used to corrupt the software. So the next other option would be to use let's say an AutoSAR CAN stack, where we can prove this concept by implementing the sec-OC communication and try to hack in. So this is the plan going forward, to prove this concept and to try to find out the vulnerabilities. Yeah.
So any questions? Can you please bring the mic to this gentleman here?
Thanks. So in the beginning, you were mentioning that you were basically forging these messages to have wrong bits set in order for the, I believe it was the sending entity to ultimately decide to switch off,
Yeah,
which of course assumes some kind of fault detection ultimately.
Correct.
Did you check, or are you working with other DOS attacks, like targeted DOS attacks that actually target like counter jumps, counter overflows, or any like flooding of the CAN bus with way too many messages, or any like electrical attacks?
Electrical attacks, well, I mean, within the scope of this project, no. I mean, we have other customers that we work on different, but within the scope of this project, it has been, like I said, the concentration was to come up with a proof of concept where we can hack an ECU, replicate the CAN messages, and yeah, a minimalistic DDoS attack. To answer your other part of the question, flooding, and have you considered much?
Yeah, so we not here. We're actually working on a live project for a OEM where we have this this possibility considered already. So there are safety mechanisms in place where you find that when the CAN bus is being flooded and there is no possible response, there are timeouts, there are safety mechanisms in place already. So that's something we did not consider here. So we have already experienced this possibility in the live scenario.
Okay. And like minimalistic security features like these counters, for example, that theoretically should prevent replays?
So there are also possibilities that due to overloading of the ECU itself, the CAN stack might skip a cycle, and then we have the counters, as you said, where it checks the current counter minus with the past one, and then sees that, okay, I've missed a beat, and then depending on the criticality, we have to go into a safe state, or we have to notify the actual applications using these messages that there might be a possibility that you're working on a older message than intended.
Okay, so was getting into the safety, what was it called? Fault secure failover state of the car. Was that actually also a target instead of DOSing the system, forcing the car on the highway into the secure failover state?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Next question.
Have you, or what are possible approaches in fixing this issue with the CAN bus? Because in my opinion, you have already lost if an attacker gains access to the CAN bus. And are there currently any approaches in either fixing this with real crypto, or maybe replacing CAN bus with something completely else?
A very good question. You want to take it?
Yeah, so one thing that is coming up in the ADAS AutoSAR stack is the crypto and the IAM stack. So in the IAM identification and authentication management. So one thing what we can do right now is maybe for each of the CAN message that has to go out or that comes in, we make sure that each of the ECU is actually authenticated before saying that this has the permission to receive the CAN message itself. Not all the ECUs will receive the CAN message on the CAN bus. So that would be one possible implementation that can be done with the IAM in the crypto AutoSAR stack.
Okay. I mean, you can make it. Here is the law that's axiomatic. If some human builds a system, you should be able to unbreak it. This is for sure. You can only make it more difficult. So the only thing, if there were a crypto on top of this CAN messages, if they're like encrypted, it would have been much more difficult to brute force. CRC is not an encryption, right? I mean, you can break it. But if there's an encryption, it's much harder. It's not impossible, it's just going to be much harder. It doesn't take much to put a little crypto.
That's right.
Maybe if I may add something here to have a bigger picture as well. There are, of course, approaches like anomaly intrusion detection for cars. So there's, interestingly, in Israel, there's a very vibrant and vital startup scene. So there are like popping up like mushrooms, security, automotive companies.
And one of them was acquired by your company?
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, true. So this is of course attractive for many car manufacturers that there's such a focus on that. And in terms of additional or let's say exchanging the bus systems as such, there's also one approach, having automotive Ethernet in the future with more bandwidth, with more possibilities also to introduce security features. And you need this bandwidth to have the support of future automotive architectures. So there's this idea of having more intelligent components in the car capable of more than only one ECU functionality. So also this is of course kind of a trigger, a driver to have also introduced more security in the cars, because then you have more storage and more computing power that we need also for this crypto.
Yeah. Any other remark? Rolf? Mark?
I'd only have a remark on that. So what currently other manufacturers and OEMs are doing is that they do not encrypt their messages, because in many cases you decide that you do not really care who knows what in a car, but you rather go for signing. And they do that by using HMAC and asymmetric encryption. Efficiency of which is questionable, but the problem is actually that if you do hashing, well, not hashing, but macking, for example, the messages explode in size. And the problem with CAN is that standard CAN can only transmit 8 bytes. And every byte and every bit within a byte is used differently in many of these systems. So that is also a reason for automotive CAN, because even if you decide that you do not want to encrypt, which again adds size, but only want to hash or MAC, it will explode your message length. So we're talking about factors of like 9 times the message length, and that is something that in many cases you cannot afford.
And that's why, as on the holistic approach you talked about, we have to look at the entire vehicle architecture, and we have CAN-FD, we have FlexRay. Now I think the future is moving toward Ethernet. Yeah. Where was the question? Is there any other question? No. So if there is no more questions, so I have a question to you, because this project will be ongoing, and what we see in the automotive industry today when we try to recruit, we find ID security experts. They're very good ID security experts, or very good automotive engineers. So it's really, really difficult to find a blend, who understands automotive engineering at the same time security. So those of you who are interested in doing a master's thesis, an internship, or eventually working in such field, we are actually hiring for this particular project. So feel free. We encourage you to get in touch, even if you don't want to work. Maybe join our workshops, get involved, and we will be welcome you to have you on board. Yeah. Thank you so much, and big hand for the team. All right. So, panelists, anything else to add in the end?
Very nice, and also very interactive.
Very
so
interactive.
I really enjoyed that.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and I would like to add one word, maybe a magic term: trustworthiness.
Trustworthiness.
So this is something that is very important in the automotive industry for the highly automated driving. You need trust to get the passengers trust the algorithms they use. Otherwise, they won't use it. That's our experience.
Yeah, so trust your car even tomorrow. So enter your car without any worries. There's the probability, in fact, is not that high currently to get hacked. So I would even say that it's still in kind of, let's say, experimenting mode. There are proof of concepts. There are academic hacks. Of course, they have impact. But even if you look at the Jeep hack, what's not the case that the week after publishing the Jeep hack, thousands of Jeeps were just crashed. No, of course
Mario, there is actually a reason for that. The reason is, I mean, the motivation of the internet criminal industry is the focus is somewhere else. Easier, more lucrative targets, like ransomware.
Yeah, good for us.
Yeah. There will be, just a question of time that those will become more and more secure. It'll be harder to get into, and it's just a question of time. With economic incentive, people will get into your automotive. And there's not only economic incentive, there can be political motivation. There can be other motivations to hack into your car. It's not happening today is not because it's not possible, it's just that there's more money in somewhere else.
I don't disagree. I mean, it's just a question of time. On the other hand, if you are a manager and have to decide on budget, you are calculating with risk and benefit and costs. And as long as there's, let's say, not that criminal energy behind it, maybe besides the key fob thing. But even in that case, the calculation is like, okay, what does a new introduction of brand new key fobs, what does it cost me? And what does it cost me if 100 cars per year are stolen? Well, the insurance pays, yeah, and those guys distribute it to all of us. So there's not really, let's say, pressure currently. But I agree that this will change. That's what I want to say, that, okay, currently maybe academic proof of concepts, but this will of course change as we have seen it in other domains in the past. Well, at the end, I mean, as of course automotive security sounds very attractive, at the end I sell insurances.
It's kind of like, like a deja vu coming in automotive industry. The policy enforcement point, policy decision point, the session management in identity and access management that we talked about 10 years ago, now Adaptive AutoSAR has a component for it. Because there is no way you will be able to deal with complexities like car-to-car or car-to-X communication without having a proper identity management system.
Okay, not to open the next box, I think this was supposed to be the closing words, so.
This was supposed to be the closing words, yeah. I mean, if we start identity management, I think we'll go on. But again, thank you so much for joining. Yeah, and let's be in contact. We will, if you're not yet the group member, please subscribe to the group, because we'll be announcing more events, and please join us.
And if you have topics that you're interested in, you can also share it with us. Yeah. Over the group chats or by email.
Absolutely, absolutely, always open. Thank you so much to the Matrickz team and Mark. Thank you so much for organizing it, and the panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.